Don't mouth 3, 2, 1. Oh wait, that was me.
3, 2, 1. Yeah. Cue the generic intro music.
I have the generic intro music. You want me to play it right over that? You saying cue the generic intro music? I could make that happen. I have
Yeah.
skills, mad
Is it?
mad editing skills.
I was trying to see. Is it the exact same as Funny Book Forensics?
No, it is not the exact same. Funny Book Forensics, by the way, is my sister podcast with our good friend Greg Smith, co-owner of the Retro Emporium in Kent, Washington. We're going to get the plugs in early today. If you want
Yeah.
to relive your childhood, you can go to Kent, Washington, go to Meeker Street and visit the Retro Emporium. Actually, this podcast is going to come out right before Christmas. So, uh, you've got Monday. I think after this podcast out, you can visit the Retro Emporium on Monday. That's it. They are
Probably
not
gonna
going to
be.
be open on Tuesday. You know
Yeah,
why
it'll
they're not
probably
going to be
be.
open on Tuesday? Do you know? They are actually coming to game night. That
Dan's coming
none
too.
of the none of the people listening to this podcast get to come to game night. But yeah, there's game night. We're having game night on Christmas Eve. Very unworkout like of us, but that's okay because game night fits our theme today.
Yes, we were talking about gamifying your workouts and
Yeah,
how to make it interesting so you actually, want to do your workout. I think that's probably the number one indicator of whether or not you're going to have success if you actually get
yeah.
some sort of enjoyment out of it.
If you don't go to the gym, things won't happen. If you don't go outside, things won't happen. If you don't move heavy things won't happen. If you don't ride a bike or run or whatever your choice is, things are not going to happen. Or just walk. We're both big fans of walking. Walking is a great thing. I actually heard somebody once say, every 30 minutes you walk, it's a trade off with other time you could be lifting or doing other workouts. And I'm like, yeah, I'm not the high level athlete that needs that talk. Walking is a great thing, especially if you can put some hills in there and things like that, because walking is the foundational movement that humans do. So we like walking.
Yeah. Well, it's also something that's going to persist like through whatever your marginal decade is. So, however old you're going to be, you should be training in mind to be ambulatory and be able to walk. Like, walk is the one thing that you want to be able to do at 90. I think one of the coolest things was like, Dick Van Dyke's just had his 99th birthday. He's still dancing around. Like, you want to be like Dick Van Dyke. Like, if you're
Yes,
gonna reach 99, that's how you want to be.
you want to be moving.
Yeah.
And I think, and by the way, this is not Funny Book Forensics. This is Abs at 50. I'm Dan. That's Paul. And we're here. We're going to do this weekly as much as possible, talking about my journey to try to get abs at 50. And before we get into the main topic today, probably good time for an update. I've got my cool certified jiu-jitsu hoodie on today. By the way, this is for Paul's Gym on Jackson and / Bridgeport Way and 27th and University Place / Tacoma, Washington. There's a lot of slashes involved whenever I describe where your business is. // But if you, we don't really / things there. But if you want to, well, I guess you could do striking on Saturday morning at 9 a.m. That would, you
We
could do
did
/ or punch or kick.
we do technically have swords upstairs.
Yeah, no, you don't.
Yeah, we do.
No. I told you to get rid of the swords. Like, yeah, there's no swords there. But you don't want people breaking through your business, stealing your swords. I wouldn't
Yeah,
advertise the swords.
they are not stealing worthy. They're
For
not
the
worthy.
dozens of listeners listening to this, we want to make
It's
sure that dozens and dozens,
for the
like,
millions of people around the world.
that's what Mick Foley used to say. Remember, for my dozens and dozens of fans, when The Rock would say his millions, Mick Foley would say, "For the dozens and dozens." Yeah, I think I'd be happy with dozens and dozens of people taking on this journey with us. But
Jeez.
yeah, I mean, but we are going to give a quick update. So, started this journey, as you'll remember, at 211 pounds and 29.8% body fat. Last week, I was at 26.9% body fat, uh, and I was 198 pounds. And this week, we weighed in today at 196.3 pounds and 26.4% body fat. So, continuing to move down. So whenever we do these updates, I'm always going to have a question of the week for Paul. One last week, we were talking about like muscle mass on the scale and making sure I maintain that. And this week, I told Paul for the first time yesterday, I felt like I wanted to eat everything. Uh, I have had no problems with this. In fact, I've had trouble getting enough calories in a few days. And I shouldn't say it's not that I wanted to eat anything. I just feel exhausted. And then today, I did the big Friday sandbag workout, which is move heavy sandbags around the gym. And I came home and actually did grab a little bit of food. And man, Paul, I have hit a wall in the last couple hours. I feel exhausted. I don't even know if it's just I want to eat everything. I am just beat. Okay, so what's going on? Like, what do I need to update here and change a little?
Well, several things that are going on. Number one, you have some overarching neural activity going on in your brain that is going to be counteracting you, especially now that we've made significant progress rather. You're going to run into some psychological barriers, and that your own body, out of its own preservation, um, doesn't like giving up that weight, right? And it's like an asymptote. The closer and closer you get to extremely low body weight, the harder and harder it is going to be, both psychologically and physically. And it's not necessarily that you're doing anything wrong whatsoever. In fact, it's plausibly because we're accomplishing the goals that we want. Um, and so you have some built-in neural mechanisms where your body is going to try to give you some resistance in general. So anyone who's feeling that way should know that a lot of that is going to be like, there are going to be days like that. And that they're going to be days when you're tired. I mean, it's not to put too fine a point on it, but this is abs over 50. You're not 20. I work with kids
What?
in jiu-jitsu and stuff. And, I always say, if I could just, bottle their energy up and sell it, I would be a billionaire,
Yeah,
right? It's just like your body just doesn't have the same level of output um, without any kind of consequence. So, it would be foolhardy to think that you're going to do all these things and, you're not going to have some fatigue. So, I would say as a backdrop, that's not necessarily a byproduct of anything we're doing. Of course, we want to make sure that, you are hitting those macros. And if you are too far under, we want to make sure that, again, my biggest concern is just making sure you're hitting your protein goals. As long as you're getting the right amount of nitrogen, I mean, the formula I learned early on, I think I heard this from Jeff Cavalier for the first time. It was like, you want to have a positive nitrogen balance and you want to be in a hypocaloric state. And Dan's always like,
mm,
what does that
not,
mean?
not. I know what hypocaloric means. Now let's talk if that's
Yes,
less calories than you output. Or
that's right. That's right. So
yeah,
that's the second part of the formula. The first part
I
of the
got
formula,
that part. Now the
yeah,
the first part I understand involves eating things I don't like.
uh, partially, but most of your protein is gonna like animal protein is rich in nitrogen base, especially if like chicken. Eating a lot of like spinach and greens and leafy greens is going to give you nitrogen. So things that are more, not that I'm promoting per se a ketogenic style diet. That's not what we're doing. Though I have done something similar to that in the past. Um, but yeah, things that are going to be more plant based. Um, just having nitrogen rich foods, and you're going to want to keep that balance high. And so that's the problem that we're running into, is making sure that and we talked about that before, right? It's like hitting that protein goal without overshooting your calories is always a balance. And
Yeah,
that's why you're tracking, is because now you're more, we talked about, give a recap of what we talked about last time, right? Being more in tune how your body reacts to what you're eating, right? So now you're getting some feedback of like, okay, we've done really well up until this point. And so I think that's good, right? The fact that it's taken this long for you to have like, that's the second thing that I was going to say is your body's also going through a metabolic change in and of itself, right? So it's the same thing.
yeah,
We've talked about because you have done keto in the past. We've both done keto in the past. And some people refer to it as what the keto flu, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I don't think it's
It's
quite
kinda what
that.
this feels like, not as bad, but it kinda feels like
Yeah.
it.
Um, Also, another thing that it's important to note is that it is the middle of December in Washington, and I don't know the last time you spent 30 minutes in the sun. So,
To well, yeah, I guess not today 'cause, I walked the dogs in the dark today, both times. So, yeah, and I had to go into, Seattle for work today, so I didn't get back out in the sun, like, in the daytime. So, yeah, that's a fair point. I think also I would add, yeah, this doesn't feel like I don't have, like, brain fog or anything either. Like, my work times today when I've sat down and focused on stuff was really productive. So, now I was gonna sit down and focus on some stuff this evening, and that was not happening. That resulted in a television show instead and snuggling with the dogs as opposed to, being very productive. Uh, but which is fine. I don't think I also don't think it's bad to have some downtime or some rest time after you've worked all day and you lifted and walked the dogs and done different things. People should probably rest. There are insane people that never rest. Good for them. I am definitely not one of those folks. I need some brain shutdown time too. And honestly, here's the joke: my brain never shuts down, right? But I've got this curse, but I can distract it. So, and fortunately, I can distract it without medication. So that's a positive thing. I
yeah,
know I don't need Adderall to distract my brain. Fortunately, other people do. Good for them. Like I'm not attacking Adderall or anything, but we've managed to distract my brain in other ways. And I think that's probably what and I think that the reason I bring that up is I think it's a good transition to our topic today too, because there are some days, man, when you just, well, I don't know that you ever don't want to work out, which is insane, but you've gamified your whole life of workouts and by playing a game. So, uh, tell them, like, I want to get into this topic. Let's just start first, right? Like, you started out bodybuilding and lifting weights, and then you got into jujitsu. And you were pretty dedicated to your weightlifting, but not nearly as dedicated as you are to jujitsu. Uh, let let's explain what we can. I guess I don't know. I can do a rough definition of gamification, right? I would just argue gamification is anything where you are playing a contest, right? So whether that contest in my case today is moving the sandbags across the gym, or in your case, choking somebody else out on the mats. Talk to us talk to us about why you got into jujitsu and what kept you going back over and over and over again.
yeah. Well, that's a pretty expansive topic, so I'll try to keep it within a reasonable limit. Um,
You
but
got you got you got 5 sentences. Go.
yeah, 5 sentences. Um, I originally got into shape as a just a long term investment into myself during grad school. So that's when I started doing what I tell people is I did bodybuilding style workouts. I never did like a bodybuilding competition. Uh, Mainly because you learn that like 99% of the people you follow in the bodybuilding world are all taking performance enhancing drugs. And I wasn't in a position to do that because I felt like it was counterintuitive to why I wanted to get back into shape. But I did a lot of lifting. So I was like lifting 2 to 3 hours, like 5 to 6 days a week throughout the entire time I was in law school. I was like the only person in law school that lost weight in law school. Like you hear about the freshman 15, there's like the first year law school 30. Like everybody gained weight. And I also lived in Kansas, which was not conducive to being super healthy. And I did that through graduation and moving here and getting my job. And then when I was, part of it was happenstance. Part of it is, I myself kind of hit that lull, as I had been kind of doing the same style of workouts and I'd gotten into pretty good shape. Um, but I didn't have an external driving factor, right? Like I wasn't doing a bodybuilding competition. Like if I had signed up to do a bodybuilding competition, I
Yeah.
might have like redoubled my efforts and been much more honed in because, I'm a person that likes competition, as you can imagine. And so I think, I got introduced to jujitsu by happenstance because the firm that I was working at, one of the partners that I worked for, his next door neighbor is Brian, the guy who owns the other gym that I'm the head coach at. And so it was a conversation that came up in passing. And I originally went in there for kickboxing. I was like, I should probably learn a little bit of self defense. Not that I'm doing anything crazy, but there's a general animus in society towards lawyers in many contexts. And I felt like it might be useful that especially in today's day and age, to know how to protect myself.
Really,
Um,
like, I understand that lawyers are extremely popular, that people like them a lot. In general, we put them up on a pedestal and cheer for them.
it's a venerated and esteemed profession that I have that gets much public derision, sometimes for good reason. There are a lot of jerks out there, so I will remain them nameless. They mostly work for insurance companies,
What
though.
if we
So,
just called you a solicitor?
yeah, yeah, a barrister, maybe.
Yeah, anyway, not to, derail you here, but
Yeah,
yeah, so self-defense
yeah.
and
So I want to learn self defense, and it kind of hit a plateau in my lifting phase of my life, and so yeah, I just started doing jujitsu a couple nights a week, like literally like 2 nights a week, and um, it's everything that people talk about and more. It is, my original the guy who was like, my coach for the first little bit of my career was a really small guy. He wrestled a lot, and so it's like it's this really confounding thing where someone who is older than you, at least in theory, less athletic than you, smaller than you, is like beating you up all the time. And it was like the first he kept hitting me with a damn head and arm triangle for like 4 months straight. I kept hitting me with the same move over and over again. And like my brain just couldn't handle it. And so like I went down this rabbit hole of like, can't let this happen to me anymore. And I think that's what makes jujitsu special. Is jujitsu is all about it's a problem solving endeavor. It's a physical activity. So it does have a lot of physical characteristics to it. And you have to learn how to control your body and control your breathing. Once you get past kind of the first anxiety of like people are trying to beat you up and choke you unconscious, once you kind of come to terms with that, then it becomes a problem solving game. Like it is 100%. Um, it's a thought. It's a real time thought experiment where you're trying to solve the mutual problem of simulating someone either breaking a limb or getting choked unconscious. So it's a very interesting psychological endeavor. And it
what
always changes, especially when you go against better and better people, because there's always better people out there. Like, it's why one of the themes of our school is like Dragon Ball Z. So if you know anything about Dragon Ball Z, like they're always trying to level up. And like that's how jujitsu works. It's like there's always like someone out there, another universe of good people whom you haven't met. That like you think you're good at something, and then they're even better than you are. And you're like, oh well, guess I gotta keep training.
I think you make a really good point though on something that's cross applicable to anyone. So I want to get back into jujitsu a little bit, but one of the things you got into is learning something new. So when you're bodybuilding, you were learning something new, doing those workouts, you were researching that, you were going back, you were trying different things. You were teaching me at one point, right? And training me to do the lifts properly, keep my body motion properly, especially with my knee. With any lower body workouts, I have to be really well had, not as much anymore because I built up muscle in my legs, right? Which helps the knee, but had to stay on point with the workouts. At different parts of our life, we were both competitive in different things too. You played football, you did debate and college forensics. Did that as well and was a coach. Uh, so competitive. We both had a competitive nature for those things. In college, I learned racquetball from a friend, and similar to you in jujitsu, got beat over and over, beat like a drum for months, but I kept going back because I was learning the sport. And uh, finally, the first time I won a game against Sean, that was fantastic. I was super excited. Still my buddy to this day because we bonded over that learning experience, right? Besides just being friends and on the debate team and things like that together. We bonded over those experiences, and him getting to teach me, and then me getting to learn. And now you're doing the training as well, so you're getting the teaching to go back to, and you also go against. You just went to Brazil and trained against really high level people.
Yeah, going back to what I said at the beginning is that, I think your success is going to be directly correlated with, trying to find something that you enjoy. Um, and that's not to say that every workout you should do should necessarily be enjoyable. In fact, I don't think it should. Going back to like the weightlifting stuff, in my heart of hearts, I was and am and still will always be an iron addict. I love lifting weights.
Yeah,
I could spend 4 hours a day just lifting weights and be probably pretty content with that. Um, but talking about trade offs is that I don't have infinite time. I still have to manage and run businesses and teach and coach and train and do all the things that I have to do. And so there, I have limited amounts of time that I can try to accomplish all of the things. So I'm a bit more strategic with my lifting these days, though I still do lift quite regularly, just not in the same volume. Um, but there's also, going back to like what you said before, um, especially when I'm in like very, very heavy training camps and, um, getting ready for like when I'm doing worlds or, doing the ADCC trials, which is like, it's like our Olympic trials for the grappling world. There are a lot of days where I don't feel like I have it, where I don't want to do it. And all of that is just your flexing your suck muscle, as I like to
yeah.
say. What was the Huberman? Let's see if I have it right. The super chiasmatic nucleus. That's your suck button in your brain.
I
Um,
don't even know if we need to go that far though. I just know that you're not. You can be excited when you get there, but you don't always have to be excited on the way. As I would is how I would phrase it, right?
yeah, exactly. When here's what I always tell people is, especially for jujitsu, but almost any workout I've ever had, it's the mental friction of getting there is literally the hardest part. It's not going to
Yeah,
be the workout that's going to be the hardest part. Like unless you're doing a massive PR, you're trying to like deadlift 500 pounds or something crazy like that, which you shouldn't be doing if you're a newbie at it. But it's the mental friction of getting there is the hardest part, especially if you're early days, right? And we can debate over what the actual dates are or whatever, but I think it is a good heuristic that where it's like it can take up to 60 or 67 days or whatever number that they articulate is like however many days of consistency that it takes to try to form a habit. um
yeah,
so just know that like that's the thing you're going to struggle with is like getting over that friction of like making it a routine, because once you make it a routine then it becomes much simpler. um
yeah. But also just remember too, you can make other things a routine very quickly too. I mean, that's the thing too. You can make not going to the gym and doing something else a routine, right? So one of the things I've done is banked in a very specific time to do my workouts each day. Or each with you at least 3 times a week, and then, other times of the day too. And when I'm by myself, I'm more likely to miss. But if I'm going to your gym to meet with you at a set time, I'm more likely to go. I think
yeah,
one of the ways too to trigger that habit is to work with somebody. It's very intimidating to go into like a big corporate gym with weights and just go in there by yourself and start. uh, I know, and especially this day and age, here I have the big headphones on, but you go in and everybody has their headphones in and they're just paying attention to themselves, right?
yeah,
I mean, I'm old, so when I started lifting like in college, that wasn't the case. And you could go into a gym and, if you needed somebody to spot you or if you wanted to just know what they were doing, right? Like you see them do something and you're like, what is that? What does that do? And you can still get people in the gym to talk to you sometimes, but it's more difficult because they're all in their sort of zone and space. And that's kind of how society is now.
yeah.
So if you're gonna go in, I would highly recommend, getting a personal trainer or getting in your case, it was just a buddy that you did it, you train me, but to help you. Now I pay you. I pay Paul to train me, and I also get access to all his other gym classes if I want them. So like it's not like I'm just paying for one thing, but I pay Paul for training a lot as an accountability piece for myself to make sure I'm actually doing the thing. And then I also don't mind paying Paul for his advice, right? Because it's good. But I think we're not saying you have to go out and buy a personal trainer right away, but I know you will be more successful if you set times and if you have a workout partner or workout buddy with you that can do the thing. Or you can just go full in and hold yourself accountable in front of the whole world by saying you're going to get abs at 50 in 1 year.
Yes, go
So,
off the deep end. Nothing in
right.
moderation, only
Talk about the
extreme.
ultimate way. Well, we were talking about gamification too, and talk about the ultimate way to gamify it. I've got a big chart in front of me each week, and I'm reporting it back to you. And I look at the numbers going up and down. And if I see the numbers going up, I don't like it. And if I see them going down, I like it. So unless that number is my muscle mass, right? I like that.
Yeah.
So but kind of thinking about that, that's one way to gamify it. But there are some others, and let's talk about some of the things we've done recently, and we can talk about some of the other habit building or brain tricking things you can do to get yourself in the habit. One thing you did with me a couple weeks ago, well, it's about 4 weeks ago now, is you laid out a bunch of sandbags in the gym, and you just looked at me and said, "Figure out how to move them across the gym."
Yeah.
And you're just like, "Yep."
It's pretty
Why?
simple.
Why? But yeah, so I had lifted the sandbags a little bit before that. It's not like I'd ever never touched them before. But why would you challenge me in that way? Why wouldn't you just show me how to move each sandbag and then do that? Why did you say, you know, there they are, move them however you can?
Well, there's actually a lot of psychology underlying that because number one is I know Dan. I know Dan really well, and part of Dan's problem in life is
I don't have any
he.
problems.
All right, no, I remember that. I will remember you said that. Dan
No
has no
problems here.
problems in life.
Zero problems.
Um,
Perfect.
One of
Everything's
Dan's problems
copacetic.
in life is well, legitimately, Dan has at least some mild form of dyslexia. So he tends to do things backwards anytime I demonstrate.
What? I don't
And
know. Yeah.
but the other thing is that if I you're either going to be undisciplined and forget how to do it, or you're going to try to do something because you're also a creature of habit. You're going to try and do something exactly the same way every single time,
Yep.
and damn the consequences, right? And the other aspect of it was I knew how the workout was going to go with a progressive overload and increased fatigue. So I knew you wouldn't be able to lift the bags a certain way each and every time. And by way of context for the internet that hasn't seen my gym and doesn't know, like we're not talking about like 10 or 20 pound sandbags. We're talking sandbags that are ranging from the low end to 150 pounds to the high end to our 300 pound, 200. Let me not get it wrong because Zach will throw me through the ceiling.
That'd
Uh,
be Za that'd be
it's a
the
273
profile,
pound. Yeah.
yeah, vegan legend on
Yeah.
Instagram.
He bought me this shirt for Christmas.
There.
These things break. Um, yeah, he brought in his fish weight and measured it and was very upset when it was only 273 pounds. And I told him it was 300 pounds. But he since rectified that problem. He bought his own sandbag, bigger sandbag that's like 320 pounds. And now he picks it up Zach style, the souple style this way, which is an insane feat of strength. For those of you who don't know, I challenge you to get a 300-pound bag and don't pick it up like this. Pick it up at the ends, squeezing it to your chest and standing straight up. I challenge the internet to do that.
Uh, well, I don't know if we need to challenge our listeners to do that. But
Yeah.
that's I know it is, and I think too. So, and today you were talking about my stubbornness and a little bit and how I do things. A few weeks ago, I was moving the sandbags however I could. Today, I lifted them all exactly the same way. I have a pattern now and I know exactly what to do. So, how long do I get to keep doing the sandbags? Because I guess
Yeah.
next would be move them back and forth across the gym 3 times instead of 2 times. But yeah, that's the thing. Here's the reason you work with somebody. Paul will change it up. So he'll have some, I don't know what that torturous thing will be next time, but there'll be something and it will be, and when I say torturous, I don't mean in a bad way, right? Like, yeah, you're tired because you were saying, workouts should be uncomfortable. They should be uncomfortable, but they should still be, they shouldn't be enjoyable. I disagree with that. I think workouts should be enjoyable. The enjoyment comes from the accomplishment of doing the thing.
Yeah.
Right, your
Well,
muscles are gonna hurt, like, it's something's gonna be sore, but it's that sense of accomplishment you get when you do something for the first time, or you figure out something different, or you figure out a new trick. That is that's the enjoyable piece, right?
yeah. Well, so I just want to say this. So you'll recall, I distinctly remember him posting this. So our one of our students and competitors, Ben, you'll remember Ben. Um, I remember he posted, 'cause Ben was significantly overweight, and I remember after a few years after I knew him, he posted and said, "It's all true. I've dedicated my life to fitness, and all of the positive things that people said it was true." And it is true. So speaking to people who might be completely untrained, right? So this is abs at 50, and you might have made it all the way to the age of 50 and have never trained. That I wouldn't say that that would be necessarily unheard of. But you don't. Maybe you're not 50. Maybe you're just someone who is just completely untrained, and that's why you're looking at this to see. Well, if someone in their 50s can do it, hopefully I can do it
I
too.
can do
That's
it.
kind of that's kind of the ethos that we're hoping to promote. And so there is going if you are completely untrained, there is going to be a period of time, and it's usually about 2 to 3 weeks, where everything is just going to be bad, like all of it. And I've been there. When I Dan knew me then. My senior year of college, I got really out of shape. I was not eating well. We were traveling all the time for competition. Like there was like 7 weeks in a row or something my last semester, something crazy. We were gone
Are
like
you
2
saying
weeks and every weekend, and we're eating like McDonald's every single weekend because that's all the school would pay for.
are you saying the hotels we stayed at didn't have fine gyms? Like, I picked really good hotels for the team, if I
Yeah,
don't know
right,
what
yeah,
you're saying.
yes. Cameron
Um
University had a high budget for the Ritz-Carlton at every place that we went.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the Super 8 has, a lobby to do push-ups in. I mean,
Yeah. Well, and I'm
you
not making excuses as to say that it was definitely life choices and commitments that I had made or not made to myself. So I'm definitely not trying to shirk personal responsibility. I'm just saying, as a matter of fact, like there was a time in my life where I was completely out of shape because I hadn't worked out in like almost a year, and yeah, I just had added body weight and was not happy with my body composition. And, that's part of what started me on this journey is just, I knew I'd reached a crossroad in my life where a lot of the men in almost all the men in my family have had heart disease and problems with their health and faced obesity. And so I knew that was the path that I was facing. So I decided to dedicate, you know, my life to at least a certain proportion of fitness. I never knew kind of the level that it would grow to, but that for those people who are just starting out, like, games, no games, whatever you have to do to make it somewhat enjoyable, just know that it's like, when does the enjoyment kick in? Uh, that there is going to be a 2 to 3 week period where everything's going to suck. You're going to be super sore. Everything's going to be hard. You're going to be huffing and puffing. You might feel some sort of embarrassment or you think you're facing embarrassment, because you think other people at the gym are judging you or whatever. And maybe they are. And if,
they're not.
if they are, fuck those people. But
Yeah.
if,
But they're
if
usually not.
they're
If
usually
or if
not.
they are, they're keeping it to themselves. Like, they're not
Yeah.
like, "Haha, no nobody's at the gym." I have never I'm sure high school, but we're not in high school anymore, right? This is
Yeah.
grown-up gyms. Like, nobody is sitting in the gym going, Look at that moron, right?
Yeah.
And if they do it, they're doing it away from you, so don't worry about it.
Yeah, and
Uh,
and I don't want to I mean, there's some people that do some pretty egregious things. So another reason why you might wanna have at least just an introductory thing, because you might just use the machine wrong, you might hurt yourself, so please don't do
yeah,
that. Um, but, going back to what you were talking about, kind of like the old school, it's kind of why, I think we both still somewhat miss our old meathead, gym that we trained at. But I think that used to be kind of more of the culture where, there might be loud music playing, but it's like everyone's kind of like lifting together and talking more. Um, I think
well,
when
and
it comes down,
We had a Gary, don't
yeah,
forget,
we
we
had a
had a
Gary.
Gary. Look,
And
if
we
there's
were,
a guy walking around clean in the gym and walks over to you and wants to adjust your lift, listen,
yeah, should probably let him.
like he would literally just come move my hands a quarter inch and be, "Dan, if you do it right here, it's gonna feel a lot better on your shoulder." Okay, cool. Oh, yeah, uh-huh. Yeah, but yeah, not every gym has a Gary, but
You know. But I think that what you would also find too is exactly like you're saying, people are kind of in their own space. But if you approach people, actually, most people will probably help you. Actually, they probably want to help you. I think most people would be like, I don't want to intercede and kind of like overstep my bounds because, yeah, of course, it's easy for me because I'm in shape, or, they're like, maybe they think that you'll think that you're being condescending to them or not, but most people at the gym will probably help you out too. Like they'll give you a
yeah.
spot. You have to be a little more aggressive, and I don't mean like in a negative way, but you just like you have to get their attention because again, they're probably spaced off in their own headphones or whatever. But I think part of the gamification is literally just you will have more success with either a personal trainer or a training partner. I think statistically that's provable.
Yeah, and where you
NFL,
set goals, and they can be small goals. Like, your goals
yeah,
can start by being, "Go 3 times a week."
yeah,
Like, literally, your first goal could be, walk 5 days a week and go to the gym 3 times, and on one day do biceps and chest. I'm just gonna mess this up totally, so just ignore my workout, but one day do biceps and chest, another day do back. No, it's sorry, triceps and chest. Let me get it right. Back and buys on another day and legs on another day, and, but your abs in there, and just plan that, right? And then you do that and you start going for a while. And Paul's right, it's going to hurt at first. I would say too, when you're working with a trainer, you may not always find the right one the first time. That doesn't mean give up.
right.
I ended up doing that at the Meathead Gym before you moved back to Washington. Remember, I told you about that trainer who burned my chest out so bad on the first workout. I couldn't, it hurt for 3 days and I couldn't go back and train and didn't want to train because I didn't feel like that trainer was listening to me or working with my body where it was at that time. They were working with their body and what would work for them. Uh, but with you or with Dylan Hall, who we'd love to get on, I got to ask Dylan if he'll come on the show sometime because he is a fantastic functional trainer and track coach and uh, trains football players. I mean, similar to what Paul does, and Dylan also keeps himself in phenomenal shape, right? I think one of the things too, I'm not saying a trainer has to be in phenomenal shape, like they don't have to be in perfect shape. But I don't want to train with an out of shape trainer either. That's just my bias. I could be wrong. You may be telling me I'm an idiot there, but in general, I want to see that a trainer is doing the things that they would have me do.
Yeah, again, it's basic rhetoric, right? Logos, pathos, and ethos. Like if you want to establish credibility, it needs to come from. I think I was just watching a video on that where it was like, I don't know, I don't think it was one of Muhammad Ali trainers, but it was like one of like the OG original like boxing coaches, and he's like in his 90s running, and he's like, the
Yeah.
reason that I'm in shape is because I always did what my athletes did, and it's like, that's why, when they were running, I was running. When they were lifting, I was lifting, right? And of course, he's probably not going to be doing it at the same clip. But I think that's just you see the same thing in the jujitsu world, right? Where it's like, what was it? Was it Henzo? Was it Henzo that was giving people guff about like, it's like if you're completely out of shape and you're a black belt, It's like, you're not a black belt anymore. Like you're in the wrong industry. Like you're in a martial art committed to discipline industry. And at a certain extent, you have to be committed to that. Of course, there are outliers, and all of that is centered in context. But
Well, you
um,
gotta be continuously learning, though. I mean, when I was coaching debate, I granted it's easy when you're a college professor because you have an outlet where you can speak often, but I didn't just speak in the classroom. I wrote positions with the team. I did public events and I did public address. I would do big presentations. Like, I would continue to hone what I did because I needed to feel what you all felt to make sure I could still coach it. Like, it
yeah,
doesn't matter what the competitive endeavor is, you should constantly be learning in that thing if you're coaching. If you're not constantly learning in that thing, you're dead. I couldn't go back to coaching college forensics right now without some research again because I'm, what, 8 years out of the sport, right? Now, I still train myself though. Actually, I probably could go back. You know why? Because I still do presentations on a regular basis. I haven't given that up.
yeah,
Uh, but there would be a learning curve on other tricks and different things because you step out of something. I just like debate. I couldn't go back into right away. I wouldn't know all the tricks that they're engaging in right now. I'd have to go figure that out. In the same way, and we see it all the time. You see an old football coach come back in and try to coach, and they were great before, and then it doesn't work. And they're like, "Oh, well, that football coach was really good before. Like, what happened?" Well, the game's past them, right? Uh, I think a great example is well, I don't even want to bring him up because I don't want to platform him, but the current senator from Alabama, who was a terrible football coach at the end of the career and a great football coach at the beginning because the game passed them and they never seemed to evolve and improve.
yeah.
And then we elect them to Senate because that makes sense, right? It's always good to get senators in office that showed a propensity not to learn through their original career.
Football conquers all. This is
Yeah, I mean,
America.
that's definitely the way we'd want to bring that in. But yeah, I mean, you see coaches, it happens all the time. And so you're gonna want to coach, consequently, you're gonna want to coach or work part if it's a workout partner, great, but they're engaging with you constantly, right? They're doing the same thing. As a coach, you want to know they can do the same things. And there are exceptions, right? Like uh, you know, Nicky No Legs, I would let him train me. Obviously, Nick no longer like well, I'll have to put a link to his Facebook. But yeah, like yeah, obviously since Nick lost his legs doing freaking what are those events? What are those crazy marathon things, but they're not marathons?
The ultra
Uh
marathons.
yeah, it wasn't even ultra. I have to look at it. But it's those like assault course type things. What's the name for that? I'm totally blanking. Right in the middle of the podcast. But
The
yeah, like
Spartan
through
run or
complications
whatever.
after a Spartan race. Yeah. But yeah, that guy, I'd let him train me, even though he's not gonna be able to do everything I can do. But he's out there training himself. I mean, he also can probably, he probably can squat more than I can with no legs. So, I'm probably going to let him coach me. Uh, right. But I think, there are exceptions to the rule, like you said. But then again, I would be getting the most inspirational freaking coach in the country. So, there's advantages to that too. Right. Nick was one of my students too, way back. Did you know that? He was one of my students in like
Y
2002. It's
yeah, you
crazy.
told me.
I'm old. Yeah. But just I mean, so I've seen inspirational cool people. But even like my buddy Lane who does the bicycle trekking with folks. He does career coaching and life coaching and he takes people on these bicycle trips and changes their lives. He's out there cycling. He hosts cyclers at his house. He's doing it all the time. He's not just giving up on the cycling to do life coaching, right? Like, can you imagine getting out in the middle of Norway or in the middle of Patagonia and being like, "Yeah, I'm not gonna be able to make this ride. You all keep going." Like,
Yeah. No way.
yeah, Uh, so I mean, I can think of numerous examples, but we know a lot of people, and I think too. I would say look around your life too, and look for those folks that are continuing to do the thing, and look for those habits. I do want to talk a little bit about before we get out of here today about some other ways you can keep yourself going into the gym too. And I'm going to start out with the really unconventional one that we started out with way back in was it around 2011, where Dan got a hamburger every time I lost 5 pounds. Now,
Mm.
I'm not saying this is the best way, but you remember this one. You endorse this behavior. Uh, how did you feel about the hamburger getting after I lost 5 pounds? Now, I
Dan
weighed 241 pounds when we started, right?
Dan does love Whataburger.
I do love Whataburger. Look, if you need that motivation to go, man, so we just happened to go to a 24-hour fitness that was across the street from a Whataburger. Not necessarily the best layout, but it was great for me. Now, the other thing too is when we did this challenge, did I get fries? And the
No,
answer was
no
no.
fries.
So if I lost 5 pounds, I got to go and get a Whataburger with any toppings I wanted on it. Didn't matter what they were. And I did get to eat the buns at that point because we weren't doing keto, but I got a Whataburger. Was it going to hurt me every time I lost 5 pounds to get a Whataburger?
No,
Especially at the weight I was at, right? Like, this
right.
is bad. Probably wouldn't honestly hurt anyone if you were, but is that the best training technique? No.
No.
But did it get me to the gym?
Yeah. And there are, there are my the biggest thing that I could recommend to people, especially if they've tried and, quote unquote failed before to do anything, is you have to diversify. You have to figure out like the levers that work best for you.
Yep.
What was the ultimate gamification of physical activity in human history, right? It's like when Pokemon Go came out.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
and
Yep.
then you saw people who, didn't really get the memo on how it's supposed to function. They're like, they're riding in their cars and stuff around to try to collect all the Pokemon. And it's like, the idea is to go out and be active, Pokemon Go,
And meet people. Yeah.
meet people. Yeah, yeah, be part of a community. And that's a big one, is finding a way to be a part of a community. And there's just so, if it can be in person and physical, now that we're, moving past the COVID age, there's more opportunities for that. So that's good. So that's a new thing that you have to try to go out and do. Um, and for younger generations, might be the first time you're going out and doing something like that on that kind of scale, but finding a community. That's why jujitsu has always been, super consistent for me. I talk about that a lot where, you know, um, Jiu-jitsu fills a lot of the holes or voids that I had left over from my life when I walked away from the debate community, right? Like feeding the competition side, but
Yeah.
also
Yeah.
the preparation as a team and having a shared goal. And now that, I'm building teams and building to try to win championships and trying to win championships as teams and individuals and helping people set their goals and doing things of that nature. Jiu-jitsu kind of fills that gap in that void. And it's all honestly, so I tell people is until I had done jujitsu, I never known that I was a grappler. But it's like, you get part of that from being like a football player, and that's another thing that overlapped with that. What I learned from football and how to train through adversity and pain and being part of a cohesive team and trying to achieve a goal together as a unit. Um, all of those are skills that are, I mean, they are primal. That's a primal tribalism thing that you're engaging in, and it's why people succeed, you know, better together as opposed to alone. Um, it's just sorry, just rewatching Lost, right? Live together, die
Oh, yeah.
alone.
Live, live
Um,
together.
but
Well,
it's very true as far as and there's a lot of research and science that backs it up for longevity's sake, right? When people are involved in communities, they live longer. You have lower blood pressure. You're a member of a community when you feel self-actualized, when you feel like you have a place in the world. And you can do that through a lot of different communities. And there's a lot of in-person communities and online communities. There are apps and different there are a lot of different ways for you to try to be a member of a running community or a cycling community or whatever the thing
well,
is
and
that you
there are
doing.
great apps. Let's name some of them. Like Strava is great for the cycling community.
Yeah,
We started using this Fat Secret app for the tracker, and people are posting on there constantly about their progress. Uh,
yeah, And
Obviously, they're
recipes and
all
stuff like that too.
yeah, there are all sorts of groups, obviously, on Facebook. We You got me a Ninja Creamy ice cream maker, which we make all sorts of fairly healthy ice creams instead of the pint of Ben and Jerry's I was eating before. And they're not even really ice creams; it's usually like frozen yogurt or something to that effect. But
Some of them are really
you know,
good.
some of them are really good. I mean, sometimes we'll just take a thing of yogurt that's really good and freeze it and spin it, and it comes out even better. So but, there are communities about that, engaging with this. There's all sorts of communities. And I was gonna say too, I do wanna say too, what if it's always funny because nobody believes that I'm an introvert, so am I gonna sell that fact? But I am a bit of an introvert. I like to do stuff on my own too. And I think there are ways to motivate yourself. Paul's like, stay with the community online. You don't have to do a live community. Like you can do an online community. Like the
Yeah.
other things too is there's other brain tricks to get you in there. One, when you first start out, tracking I think is good. Grab yourself a piece of paper and track each day and track your progress and mark your weights down and just draw yourself a little chart. I mean, you can do it online, you can do it in a Google sheet, however it is you want to do it. But just each time you do a thing, you mark it down so you know what you're doing and you move progress. Another way to go by yourself is if you need the alone time. Let's say you're in a community at work and you're constantly in a community. And when you're going to work out, you're just really wanting to be by yourself. Like that is your downtime. Well, that's fine to encourage you to work out instead of doing something else. There are a couple of double up things you can do. I mean, one thing, just throw your favorite music or a podcast on or whatever that is, go for a walk. Uh, I have dogs that bug me to go for walks, so that makes it really easy. Especially one of them that is constantly up at 5:45 in the morning and starts crying in the hallway at 6:15 if I haven't gotten up and taken him for a walk. So, there's that. Then the other thing too is if you love television or love media, well, bring your show with you. If you're doing cardio indoors, pick a show that you like and only watch that show when you're working out. And
Yeah,
that's your time you get to do that thing.
there's a lot of people that have had pretty big success where, yeah, a condition of, watching your favorite show, or maybe you doom scroll too much and you just can't give it up, or maybe you're a phone app game player or something like that. It's just you make preconditions that has to happen, either while, probably not while you're walking outside, but you can do pretty much anything on your phone or with a book or a TV show while you're on a treadmill, or a stationary bike at the gym. And so
Yeah.
I know a lot of people use that. Um,
Well,
there is
and we
one app
built
that I wanted to mention too that um, I have no familiarity with, but I have heard about it in the past, and it is one of my all-time favorite ploys to get people. It's essentially, I think it's called Stick, and that's Stick and then another big K. Do you know about this app?
no.
It's one of my favorites. This is like the best. It's an app where you essentially put a non-insignificant sum of money, maybe
Mhm.
$500, $1,000, $1,500, and you put it into an account. And it's kind of like an escrow account. And what happens is you do weekly or monthly check-ins. And if you're not meeting your goals, what it does is uh, gives that money to a cause that you hate. So it's like if you hate like
What?
some sort of political party, or like, let's say you're like anti-vegan or whatever, it's like it will donate your money periodically to the vegan cause or to whatever the cause is. And so you assign your money to be donated to something. It's an anti-charity app. And I really love the psychology of it. Like it's like every time you're not successful, those bastards get your money. And I really love that app.
Yeah. Well, and the last thing I'll say is, as far as motivation, I also get anxiety is a real thing. Some people have that going to the gym. Paul mentioned it really early on. We set up a home gym during COVID in the garage. You actually would like the garage back for your car. I'm not giving it back for the gym. Uh, I actually get very anxious in the gym. I will sit there and because I'm very patterned, Paul was saying it, I'll give myself away. I get better at times, sometimes not. But when I go to the gym, I'm like, okay, I have these 8 things to do, and I'll literally be looking at the next machine or the next bench while I'm doing something out there. And I'll be like, that person's got to move, or I won't be able to do the next thing. And then I can't do this. And some days that will cascade on me. And that's just not a good thing, a good space for me. Paul's seen me do it and laughed at me. It's nice. That's why it's nice to have a gym buddy because Paul can be like, stop it. Like it's okay if you do exercise one and then exercise three and then go back to exercise two. But I get very patterned and I'm like, I want to do one, two, three, four, five. We've done things to help with that, like doing two types of exercises in a set circuit or things like that, like doing multiple things. But the thing is, have a home gym. So I just throw a television in the home gym. Shoot, you can buy them for nothing now used. Like, would I get it for an estate sale for like 80 bucks or whatever?
Oh yeah,
And
the extra TV.
yeah,
Yeah.
the extra TV. Well, we threw it in the gym, and so I'll watch a television show out there during the workout. So I'll just throw it on, and that's the only time I watch that thing. So I've got that out there if I need it. And honestly, our home gym setup has evolved over time, but the initial setup was only a couple $100, and that was enough to do less than that actually. Well, I think it's because you stole weights for me, but
I
we don't talk.
appropriated weights. I
Nobody wanted
appropri
the 1-inch weights. Yeah, I mean, we started
Yes,
out
I
with an old school 1-inch bar, and nobody
appropriated.
wanted that, and, uh, but, and then I've slowly built it up over time. Like, I didn't have everything at once, but if, going to the gym is really too intimidating or causes too much anxiety, message us on any of our platforms. You can get us on Facebook, Instagram, X, Blue Sky, or on YouTube, message us and we can give you some ideas on how to start an initial setup, right? It's honestly not that expensive. And a lot of
Well,
times
and
you can look around for gym equipment on Facebook Marketplace and different places to get starter stuff too. I have a rack in the garage that was a starter rack that somebody got rid of. Well, we have a really low roof in the garage, so I can't fit a full size rack in there. So that was a perfect rack for me, but they were getting rid of it too because they bought a taller rack to put in their garage. So you can find people that are getting rid of things and to upgrade their equipment, but it's perfectly great equipment for you. So
yeah.
you can kind of
Well,
look
and
around for that too.
all in all, I mean, our gym setup is probably less than $500 maybe. I mean, it's not super in depth.
I don't think if you leave out the mats,
Yeah.
it was less than $500.
Yeah. And in the mats I got for relatively cheap too. So if you're going to get mats, it might be a bit more expensive because I just know people who have mats because I'm in the space. But um, yeah, I mean, it's just, and we don't have, I mean, I still keep my, uh, mainly because it's such a killer deal, but I still keep my membership to, LA Fitness and I own a gym. I mean, I have most of the stuff that I need here, but at the end of the day, they have just a lot of big pieces of equipment um, that um, that is not um, that it's not practical for me to think that I'm ever going to get on my own, right? Like like having four big stair steppers. I like doing that as extra cardio, right? Or like the rowing machines. I mean, I could get a rowing machine, but it's just easier to have it there. And plus, what I always tell Dan is, I like having access to a pool and sauna, and for me, it's a
Yep.
very low cost method to have access to those. If you have unlimited resources and you can have your own pool and sauna, or whatever, that's different. But and I'm not going to name names, and I don't agree with a lot of their business practices, but there are um, very low level entry pay, very insignificant
Purpley,
sums of money.
very
Yes,
purple.
onomatopoeia based one, new one that just opened up around here. But there's a lot of low cost barriers to entry to get started. But here's what I would say to people: I want you to take your fitness seriously. Um, as trite and glib and cliche as it is to say, you want to get to a space where fitness is part of your life. It doesn't have to be a way of life where it's all that you do, but you should make it a non-insignificant portion of your life. You're going to live a better life like that if you have kids and care about grandkids. You're going to be able to do things with those grandkids when you commit now. And so know that wherever you're going, it should be seen as a stepping stone. So if you're not seeing like crazy, massive transformation because you go into a gym that costs you $9.99, it's because you're not investing in enough. You're not spending enough money. Um, one, to maybe be committed, but two, you're just not in the right space yet. And maybe you're in the right space for that moment, right? So like the first 6 months,
Yep.
just know that you should outgrow those spaces. Like it should be your plan to spend more money to get better results, to do something else that you enjoy, right? Like if you're going to do cycling, at some point you should spend the money on a really good bike, and good
At some
shoes
point, but you don't
and
need one to start out. Remember, I had
no,
that little green Trek commuter bike for a long time and then got the 29er that Nolan had me get, and,
yeah,
but I grew into it. I I feel like I needed to establish that I would ride the bike first
yeah,
before, and I rode that commuter bike all over everywhere for a long time before I upgraded my bike,
yeah.
'cause I
And
wasn't, doing bike racing, right? Like, I just wanted to use it to move around, and that's fine. I also the gym too, I think people go crazy with equipment. They try to buy everything right at once. Like, when I started, I had, like, 45 pounds worth of I guess 90 pounds worth of plates, various plates, 1 bar, a bench, and, the old school dumbbell, screw-on bars, right? And a kettlebell.
yeah,
I mean, that was
yeah,
it, like, but you can do a lot, like, with that. You don't need to buy the next set of things until you outgrow that, so we didn't buy more things for me until I outgrew that, right? And
yeah,
then oh, we had the over door pull-up bar.
yeah. Which I hate
Yeah,
those things, but they're better
but
than them.
it was a good start.
Yeah.
It ruined the
Yeah.
door, but
That's the
it was a
thing
good start.
is
It's
you,
fine.
you should, you should view your fitness journey, especially at the beginning, as an experiment. It's experimentation. You're trying to find what is both challenging and you enjoy doing, and something you're going to be persistent with. And um, maybe you get lucky, right? But I think you'd be kind of crazy, especially if you've never done any of the things. Like if you've never been a runner or been a hiker, or been a swimmer or been, you haven't tried any of those things, you won't know until you try. And so like, yeah, you should invest in some good running shoes and maybe some good gym clothes or whatever. But you start small and then spread your money around to try a bunch of different things. Try, personal training or a Zumba class or a Pilates class or whatever it is,
Yep.
whatever um I always go to the LA Fitness and it's like the ladies like dance Zumba class. I think it's always packed, and good for
Yep.
them. It's not for me. That's not what I would like. But it makes me happy seeing them do it because I'm like, they found something that they like to go to every week and it looks like they're having a good time.
I can do
And
the Zumba class and knock the people over like dominoes when I go the wrong direction each time. That would be
yeah,
like the most fantastic Zumba class ever.
yeah. Yeah, but expect that you're gonna experiment, and then once you find something, be willing to, yeah, again, don't don't be reckless, don't go crazy, but view it as an investment. I talked about this previously. Is you should be viewing these things. Dan pays money to me, and oftentimes he says, "I think you're just trying to kill me." And I'm like, no,
Mhm.
everything that I've done is taken steps to increase his lifespan, not decrease it, even though some days he doesn't feel that way. Um, and so you view it as that investment where it's like the more that Dan does these things today, the more Dan's saving and moving up in the world and preparing hopefully someday to retire in the manner that he desires, right? Like whatever retirement looks like for him. Um,
Lifting giant, heavy sandbags. That's
yeah.
retirement. Yeah.
Um, but like I remember Dan when Dan was overseas and he messaged me from the mountains in Germany, right? And I'm sure that he would like to go back to that part of the world and be able to do those kind of things, or uh, climb to the top of the Eiffel Tower, or whatever you want to do,
Well, I
whenever
think the
you.
point is you don't wanna get old and not be able to do the things because you're not in shape, right? Like,
Yeah,
I didn't work so hard my whole life to save money and then be completely out of shape because all I did was work and then not be able to enjoy said money, I think is your point.
yeah,
And I would too, to kind of summarize this and end this too, I just wanna give a message out to everybody. Low barrier of entry, right? Let's go the lowest barrier of entry. Get a dog. Wait, that's not the lowest barrier of entry. Dogs can be quite expensive.
yeah.
Uh, but I'm joking. But no, seriously, get a dog, get a friend's dog, whatever. They're gonna want to walk all the time, or get a friend. You know, when I used to walk with Mrs. Moore in Longview, we would pace ourselves and try to go faster around the lake each time. But we were also enjoying a chat and walk, right? You know, the that those are good things. But even if you're by yourself, go for a walk, work yourself up to a mile ish or a mile and a third or whatever. I walk about a mile and a third, right? Up and down hills. And I go out with the dogs. But if you want to gamify it, build yourself up quarter mile, half mile, mile, right? And then start timing how fast you can walk it. You know, that's the easiest, simplest way to gamify it and build it up. And if you want to play Pokemon Go along the way, awesome. Do that too. How many Pokemon can I catch on that mile? And how far can I go? Because how much, do it. Just hit Paul's point. And that's it. It's the low barrier of entry. That's free. Put your shoes on that you already got, put a pair of shorts
Yeah.
on, put a hoodie on, and go for a walk, right? That's it. It's so you don't have to have a big investment to do it initially, but move. Get out and move. And if you can do that, you're going to be well on way to setting your own goals, just like we're doing here. It doesn't have to be these crazy extreme get abs at 50 goals, but set a goal for yourself and move. And so in the last 2 weeks, we've talked about calorie intake, input and outputs, right? And this whole mantra of you can eat anything, just not
Not
everything.
all.
And here, gamifying your workout, like, you can get your mind in the mindset of wanting to do something. But what we're saying is do something. So if you got anything out of our first three podcasts, it's like figure out what you want to do, set that goal, start figuring out how your food is going to build in with your energy and what you need to get to those goals, and then do it. Get out, walk, whatever it is, and make it fun for yourself. And let me tell you, when a dog's bugging you, I would say it's a lot more fun to walk Toa the dog than listen to him whine in the hallway. So definitively, it's fun for him and it's fun for me.
Yeah.
And yeah, any more inspiration you want to send good vibes before we wrap this one up here in a minute?
Yeah, just think about the ultimate hiker's motto. If you want to go fast, go alone. If you want to go far, go together. So if you want to start fast, just start doing it, whatever it is. Get a fitness pal, get a Whoop or a Samsung watch or a Apple watch, or whatever you can start tracking, gamifying, doing a little bit more every single time. And it's like I said last time, you can do more. Whatever you're doing, you can do more. And you just got to believe that and know that that's the truth. Um, and you're going to be successful if you can find what is intellectually challenging and fulfilling. So if you can find a community along the way, find a group of people, find an online space, whatever it is, but get started, go fast, go far, go together.
And start. And I'll say, if you want to, obviously, I pay Paul for services. This wasn't supposed to be an advertisement for Paul, but if you want Paul to build you a workout plan or come to the gym and work out, like I said, hit him up and you can hit us up. And And then for free, we're happy to share whatever I'm doing with the diet. So I'm happy to share any of my what I've eaten for the week, why we chose those. We've already told you why we chose those calories, but I'm happy to share all of that with you. So and heck, probably we should throw up my workouts at some point, like what those look out in a week, so people don't think it's crazy. You're not going to see me working out like Paul does, right? Like you're going to see a walk in a 30-minute workout some days. You're going to see a walk in an hour-long workout some days. Some days you won't see anything because I rested that day. That's all okay. Just do your thing. Move forward. All right, let's wrap this thing up, and we will come back next week with another progress update and another fun fitness topic for you. So if you want to follow along the journey, come back next week and join us and ultimately start your own, like we said.